guys, it's Jessie. Welcome back to my channel, welcome back to another video, and welcome back to another recommendations video. I am very excited because I don't think I've done one of these since I did my romance books recommendations back in February, and I thought spooky season is upon us. It's very much the kind of wintry time, and I read mystery thrillers all year round, but I thought a lot of people are kind of reading them more at the moment, so I thought it would be the perfect time to give you my top 10 mystery thrillers of all time that I've ever read. I will say a couple of things. One, I cannot make decisions. I hate making decisions, and therefore this is not an ordered top 10. And also I am very good at justifying absolutely everything. So I do have about 20 books that I'm going to mention, but like some of them don't count, so they're not actually my top 10 mystery thrillers. But if you wanted a mystery or a thriller and you picked up one of them, it would also technically be a recommendation from me. And I feel like we'll get into it and it will kind of be self-explanatory why they're not included, and I think they're very valid reasons, and therefore no one can hate me for giving more recommendations. But without further ado, I think let's get straight into it. So for my taste in mystery thrillers, as you guys will probably be able to see, I love strong characters. I really love kind of like characters that I feel very connected to. I love mysteries or thrillers that are doing something a little bit different, something a little bit out of the box. I love mixed media. That is kind of one of my favourite tropes whatsoever. And I don't tend to love kind of like Freida McFadden, Alice Feeney kind of popcorny thrillers. I like ones that have maybe like a little bit more depth to them. So first things first, I will recommend a couple of series. I'm not going to be including series in this because I'm just not, and I don't want to pick a favourite in the series. So first things first, I feel like let's get the obvious out of the way. We have the entire Thursday Murder Club series. So this is currently a 4-book series with the next one coming out next year. I believe there might be 7, I'm not sure, but I think I could be like completely talking rubbish with that. This is a murder mystery series that follows a group of elderly friends at a retirement home. We get very close to the characters and they are each kind of getting involved in mysteries and solving them. They have the Thursday Murder Club, which is basically their kind of group that try and solve cold cases, and then in the first book they discover a mystery that is kind of happening in real time near them, so they want to figure it out, and we meet a lot of really fun characters. They get involved with the kind of local police force and stuff like that. One of them is an ex-spy, so that makes things very, very fun. I feel like this is very quintessentially British. I feel like there's a lot of references and stuff like that that kind of really speak to life in England. I think it's very quaint, and it definitely really gets to the heart of kind of like what it is to be a person, like things that matter. I feel like these are very heartfelt and emotional as well because you get so connected to the characters. It feels very, very real, I think, as well. Obviously like certain spy related stuff maybe less real, but like in terms of like the characters, the way they behave, like the things that they say, I feel like it really cuts to the core of like what it is to be a human, and like has just a very heartwarming but also like devastating at some points kind of like message, and I really, really love it. So I definitely would recommend it. My favourite is the most recent one, The Last Devil to Die, but I absolutely loved all of them, so they don't count because they're a series, but I would obviously recommend them. And then 2 other kind of obvious very popular series, I've got them here on my shelves. Firstly, we have the Good Girls Guide to Murder series. This is just the first 2, but this is a mixed media YA murder mystery as a girl called Pip tries to solve a cold case from her town. And then we have the Natural series here by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. They are also YA murder mysteries, and they are a group of profilers at the FBI. They're kind of like a teenage version, I guess, and they've all got kind of natural predispositioned kind of talents. So like one can like tell when people are lying, one's really good with statistics and probability and stuff like that. So they are both really, really fun ones too. Then we have a couple more that aren't counting in my list. First things first, I have these 2. I would not personally classify these as mystery thriller, however I have heard them be classified as mystery thriller before, so I will mention them. Firstly, we have Beartown. This is a literary fiction, I think, and similarly to Richard Osman, some of the lines just feel so poignant. The writing in this I think is potentially the best writing I have ever read. I think Frederick Backman's writing is definitely my favourite, and I wouldn't necessarily class this as a mystery. However, the kind of first chapter, I guess, starts with late one evening towards the end of March, a teenager picked up a double-barreled shotgun, walked into the forest, put the gun to someone else's forehead and pulled the trigger. This is the story of how we got there. So I guess kind of throughout you are trying to figure that out. We kind of like go back and then obviously build up to that point. However, I do think that the main kind of premise of this story is a lot more about that. We're dealing with kind of like small town dynamics, and we get really, really into these people's lives. We kind of get so many perspectives, and I really, really love it. And eventually we do kind of figure out what kind of went down and what happens. However, I do think that kind of gets lost in the kind of just like deep dive into these characters. So I absolutely love this, one of my favourite books of all time, but technically could be classed as a mystery thriller, I guess. And then this one is in the mystery thriller category category. That's how I read it for the Goodreads Choice Awards last year. This is a fictionalized story kind of inspired by murders of the girls in this sorority by Ted Bundy. However, this is very much a kind of feminist perspective. It's got some really, really interesting critiques on true crime, and it's definitely kind of very impactful. I believe I heard that the author spoke to victims' families maybe, but I'm not 100% sure on that. We follow Pamela, who is the kind of head of this sorority, and also Tina, who is friends with someone who she believes was a victim of this serial killer, and it's very, very heartfelt. I cried a lot at this. I think this is a really, really excellent kind of story about feminism, misogyny, kind of in the 1980s or so, and it takes a really, really interesting perspective and kind of like brings to light the fact that obviously the criminal was very much sensationalized. However, it's like just a man, and like he wasn't this mastermind. The police were just shit, like, to be completely honest. So I absolutely adored this one. I also think it takes a very kind of like poignant note of not naming the perpetrator at all throughout this. He's just referred to as the defendant, which I like as well. And yeah, I'd also love to reread this one, but again, I would class this more of a litfic. However, I have heard it classed as mystery. And then finally, this one's more sci-fi. It's a sci-fi murder mystery, but I feel like it leans heavily on the sci-fi. And I am going to also be recommending The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. I really thought this was excellent. I read this earlier in this year. I love this edition too. This is basically about these people on an island where they've kind of evacuated to after like the kind of world's gone to chaos. There's like a fog that's kind of killing people, and there's a protective dome over the island, and 3 scientists that live on the island along with these people. And one night one of the scientists gets killed, and in doing so the kind of barrier that protects the island from the fog has been like put down, and all of the people have lost all their memories of that evening. So one of them murdered them and they don't even remember. So that's kind of crazy. And also we have like 3 days, I think, until the fog has crept in and causes them to die. So this one has one of the most amazing midpoint twists I've ever read. I absolutely ate up that twist, and I think towards the end of the book it wasn't like a crazy ending, but I actually really liked it. Again, I think this kind of says a bit about like humanity, what it means to be human, etc, etc. And yeah, I really thought the twist halfway through was crazy. This is sci-fi mystery, I guess, but I really love this as well. So now moving on to my actual top 10. I know I've been talking for like 5-10 minutes, but like it's fine. We are now actually moving on. So first things first, again, as I mentioned, this isn't in any particular order, but I would like to recommend The Examiner by Janice Hallett. Again, I would recommend all of her books, but ignore that. This one I think is actually probably potentially the most widely recommendable in my opinion. I've read all of her books and I've really enjoyed all of them. We have The Appeal, which is told entirely through emails, The Twyford Code, which is told entirely through audio transcripts, and The Mysterious Case of the Alberton Angels, which is kind of a mixture. And this is also a mixture. We've got some kind of like chat logs and emails from this art course, and basically the examiner, I guess, is kind of going through the kind of previous records of these students' works and stuff, and they believe that one of the students has gone missing, and they are trying to cover it up basically. And it's a very, very interesting mystery. We go in some really kind of like crazy directions as well, and I really, really enjoyed it. I feel like this is potentially the most widely recommendable just because it does have that mix of mixed media. It's not just kind of one medium. And I also thought this was super fun. I loved the character dynamics as well. I feel like they were so interesting seeing how the different characters on this course interacted, and I really, really loved this one. I gave it like a 4.5, I think, but I like binged so much of it, and I think when it's like mixed media like this, it is so easy to read, so like don't be put off by the size. Also, she sounded personalised, which I absolutely love. But yeah, really, really love this from her. And then I have a classic. I feel like a lot of people know about this one, but it's one of my faves, and that is If We're Villains by M.L. Rio. So if you don't know, this is like a dark academia, I believe, inspired by The Secret History, though I haven't read The Secret History myself yet. I am very eager to. And we are following a group of very pretentious Shakespeare like drama students at this kind of boarding school. It's a very small cohort. It's only about 5 of them, and we basically are following one of them, Oliver, kind of 10 years on as he's released from prison for, I believe, killing one of the friends, pretty much. And we are basically kind of going through him rehashing the story to a detective for the first time and kind of explaining the whole thing that happened, and we find out kind of like who got killed, how, like what actually happened, etc, etc. So this is a really, really great mystery. I love just the vibe. The dark academia in here is like so rich and I love it so much, and I think it's absolutely excellent. And this edition especially, the 5th anniversary, is illustrated, which I absolutely adore. And again, very, very eager to reread this one too. I feel like you get really, really sucked into the world as well, and I just absolutely adore it. Then I have one that I read digitally on my Kindle, and that is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. So this is very much like a suspense thriller. I feel like it's less of a mystery and you're very much like on the edge of your seat. In this one we are following a woman that has gone to like house sit at this cabin, and she writes a 1-star review for this book that she read, and basically she then believes that the author of the book is coming to torment and kill her. So it all happens over the course of one night. Very, very tense, very, very suspenseful. Definitely like kind of like an action-packed slasher type thriller type thing. Not necessarily in the gore, but more so just in the like high tension kind of atmosphere that I think you get in a lot of those movies. This was super, super fun. A very unexpected 5-star for me, but I think the suspense is just crazy and really, really good, and it also had some fun twists in there too. So I absolutely love that one and would obviously very highly recommend. Then next up we've got an indie one, which is Ask for Andrea by Noelle W. Illy, and this is such a wonderful book. This gives me very similar vibes to Bright Young Women, just in more of a thriller sense. So in this one we are basically following 3 girls who have all been victims of this serial killer, and they are ghosts pretty much, and we follow them as they kind of work to help each other and try and protect potential future victims and get him caught. I think alongside the kind of obviously tension of that, we get a very, very like intense kind of like very tense scene at the end as well, which I love. But alongside kind of that main plot, we're also kind of very much, I feel like it's very much emotional, heartfelt story. Again, you can kind of tell I like those vibes. This one I did cry in as well. Also kind of like following these girls as they kind of like, as ghosts I guess, go back to like their families and see how they are when they're missing. Like it's very, 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 very emotional, but I thought this was really excellent and I really, really loved it. So yeah, I would highly recommend, obviously. Then next up I read this one pretty recently, and that was Chasing the Boogeyman by Richard Chismar. So this one is a little bit unique and a little bit different. This is a fictional book written as if it is a non-fiction, so it's written as if it's a true crime book with like pictures, etc. The author is like a character. It's basically very much based in his hometown, but it's following him moving home for the summer around the same time that a bunch of local girls are going missing and being found murdered. So I thought this was really, really excellent. I enjoyed the twist in this as well. This was a little bit of like a when it got revealed, and I really, really liked it. I loved the writing style. It's very much sucked in. I feel like it feels very real, and I love that as well. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one. There's also a sequel, I believe, which I am very much excited about. I believe it follows a different case because this all does get wrapped up pretty well. But yeah, I thought this was a really excellent and really unique as well, and I haven't heard too many people talking about it. I don't know whether I'm just like under the radar, but I'm very much looking forward to reading the next one, and I thought this was really good. It's not too long either. It's only about 300 pages, and also we do get some kind of like interviews as well, like transcripts, which is great. And yeah, I think just the way that it's plotted was great and very much a gripping mystery. I read this in my 24-hour readathon video, so I read it pretty quickly as well and really, really enjoyed it. Okay, so now we are going back to another one that's not technically on the list, but in a similar vein to Chasing the Boogeyman. I feel like if you liked one, you'll like the other, and this is Penance by Eliza Clark. So the reason I'm not technically putting this on my list, because I read this all in one go about a year ago, and I can't quite remember if we actually solve a mystery or whether it's just kind of like set out as like finding out why things happened. Do you know what I mean? So I am tentative to put this on a mystery thriller recommendation list if there's not actually any mystery and it is not thrilling. So I would love to reread this one, but basically we are following a journalist here who is kind of writing a non-fiction book, obviously it is all fictionalized, about a case where this one girl was murdered by 3 of her classmates, and we basically go through, we kind of get interviews, we get kind of following each of the girls, digging into them one at a time, and we learn a lot about them. And also there's kind of like in the book there's like drama with like the author potentially being biased and stuff like that, and kind of misleading information and stuff, which I also thought was an interesting addition. So I am tentative to recommend this as a mystery thriller because I can't quite remember if anything is actually revealed or whether it's just like a sharing of the story type of thing, but I thought it was really, really excellent. I love the way that it was written, and I definitely think this is very much kind of similar vibes to this. is if you liked one, you'll like the other, and I would absolutely love more recommendations like this. I did previously enjoy true crime like a few years ago, however, like obviously it's very kind of ambiguous morally, and like certain things are fine and then certain things I feel like are presented in poor ways, and you never know really what you're going into if you would pick up a book like that. So I feel like this is a very nice way, a more safe way I guess, to kind of get that kind of like gripping story, and it's not sensationalizing anything because obviously it's completely fictionalized, so you don't have to worry about victims' families or anything like that. So it's very much a safe, completely like non-problematic way to kind of enjoy similar content. So if you have any recommendations similar to these, I would love to know, but this one was also very, very good. I'm very interested to read more from Eliza Clark. Then next up we have another kind of thriller that is slightly unique, and that is Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. This was in the 2022 Goodreads, I believe, and I have found a favourite, and like an unexpected favourite every year since doing that video. Obviously last year it was Bright Young Women, and this one was 2022, so I'm excited to see what it will be for this year. But this is kind of a classic mystery thriller, however there is a twist. Basically this woman sees her son stab someone when she's like looking out the window when he's like coming home late at night, and then the next day she wakes up the day before, and then the next day she wakes up the day before that, and she's basically trying to go back and kind of figure out what happened, why, and see if she can like stop it. So this was very, very interesting to kind of uncover and work through, and it was, again, there's a lot of heartfelt stuff about like being a mother and a family and things like that. I thought this was really, really interesting. There are a couple of twists in here that gagged me too. There was like a similar twist like later on to the first twist, and I was just as gagged the second time. I really, really enjoyed this one, and I loved the kind of unique nature of it too. I thought it was very, very different, very, very special, and I've not read anything similar to it since. So yeah, absolutely really love this one. Then next up I do have a recommendation. This is probably for someone who has read like lots of mystery thrillers previously. The rest of these kind of, you could go either way if they're kind of your first one or you've read a lot, but this one is definitely for people who love the genre altogether. So this is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. This is a very meta book. It's very direct to reader. There is like pages at the start where he like directly talks to the readers and kind of lists every page that someone dies, and then kind of references that throughout the book, and like very much like breaks the fourth wall, which I think is very fun. I liked the humour in here. I liked the kind of storyline. I think the actual mystery itself kind of fell to the backseat for me. I was really just kind of enjoying the actual storytelling, the characters, etc, etc. I was more intrigued by the book itself rather than the mystery we were solving. However, there still was a strong through line of mystery in here, which was again interesting to unpack. So yeah, this one definitely wouldn't recommend as like someone's first mystery ever, but like if you're a big fan of the genre, I think this would be a really fun time for you. Then next up we have potentially one of my favourites of all time, and that is A True Crime Story by Joseph Knox. This is potentially one of my favourite twists that I've ever read in a book, because it just completely caught me off guard, like entirely. I was absolutely gagged. So this one is a mixed media murder mystery again, or like missing person, I guess, mystery, I believe. I don't know if she's dead. Yeah, but she just went missing. Basically we have Joseph Knox, who is another kind of journalist, author, that is part of the story. Again, it's written kind of as a true crime book that is actually fictionalized, which I enjoyed a lot, obviously. But yeah, this one, he is basically interviewing all of these girls' friends and kind of family and stuff. She went missing kind of in her first month or like term at uni, and it's very, very interesting. You get a lot revealed, and obviously it is kind of like emails, etc. He is also basically taking over this book from someone else, I believe, as well, which is kind of like part of the story too. But yeah, it's a little bit meta at times, but really, really love this one, and I would highly, highly recommend. And then in tandem with that, I feel like if you liked one, you'll like the other. Again, I would recommend Murder in the Family by Cara Hunter. This isn't part of my top 10 because this is, and like they're just like linked together. It's fine, not linked together in a way of the story, but it's written in a similar way. This is another mixed media murder mystery. Basically, previously this man was found dead in a family home in London, and then years later kind of a group of experts are working together on this TV show to try and figure out what happened, and it's written as the scripts for the TV show as well as kind of like other mixed media aspects, so like recordings and stuff like that. And I thought this was a really, really interesting mystery too. I liked the reveal in this as well. I thought thought was done very, very well. And similarly to this one, I feel like when it's written in mixed media, it just grips you so quickly. So yeah, absolutely love those, and definitely something a little bit unique but so much fun in the murder mystery genre. So really, really love that too. And then penultimately, we have one that I've read very, very recently. So recently that it's not even been vlogged, so recently that it is in the Goodreads Choice Awards for 2024. But I did want to mention it because I feel like I don't have too many kind of classic mystery thrillers that I think are really, really excellent. A lot of these are doing something slightly unique, and this one I feel like is just a really, really excellent classic mystery thriller, and that is A Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. So this one does have like a little bit of a mixed media aspect in the fact that we do follow a podcast every few chapters, but it's not a large part of the book. Most of the book is told through like a regular kind of prose narrative. So in this one we are following Lucy. She's just kind of come home for her grandma's birthday, I believe, and there is a podcaster in town who's basically trying to solve the murder of her friend. She has been the main suspect, although there was not enough evidence to charge her. She was basically found kind of wandering around with no memory with her friend's blood on her after her friend died, and she has still absolutely no memory of this, so she is also wanting to figure out what happened, and I think it's told in a really great way. I really like the reveal in this. Again, didn't necessarily see it coming and I was a little bit shocked. I think it's a really, really like just classic, quintessential great mystery thriller, to be honest. Like, I think it's told really well. I think there's some humour in here that's great. The writing is excellent and I was very much hooked, very much enjoyed it, and it's not super, super long either. So yeah, I think this is a great kind of classic, very much probably well-rounded thriller. I feel like this is very widely recommendable. So yeah, very much enjoyed this one too. And then for our final book, can we believe we're here? Only 10, and it took me this long. I didn't even mention 10. That's crazy. But we have, of course, We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. So obviously I did mention a Thursday Murder Club series. However, I feel like this is potentially even more widely likable, kind of potentially has some more mass appeal. So for this one, we are not entirely set in England the whole time as well. So potentially less kind of like quintessential Britishism. So it's potentially more widely enjoyed, potentially like abroad. How many times can I say potentially in one sentence? In this one, we are following a father-in-law and daughter-in-law little duo as they are trying to solve this murder. I believe the daughter works for like a private detection agency and she believes that she is going to be targeted, so she kind of pulls in the father-in-law dad, who's very much a like homebody since his wife died, and basically we are following them as they kind of hop around the world with also this famous author that the daughter is protecting, and they are trying to solve this mystery. So the reason I think this is slightly more widely marketable is because I know a few people that have enjoyed the Thursday Murder Club series, but they just thought it was a little bit like twee and a little bit too kind of sweet, like, I don't know, maybe forced, not kind of what they would want to read necessarily. And I feel like this has a little bit less of that. It's still very heartfelt, again, gets to the core of what it is to be human, but I feel like I'm still connected to these characters. I feel like Richard Osman does an excellent job at kind of showing and getting deep into the characters and stuff like that, and giving them all different very strong personality traits. However, I feel like we are less kind of emotionally invested in these characters potentially, and we're more necessarily invested in like the fun mystery. I feel like this is maybe a little bit more fun and a little bit more kind of out there, I guess, if that makes sense. The like core Thursday Murder Club group, it's like a very soft place in my heart, whereas as much as I love these characters, I feel like it's just maybe like a little bit less soft, if that makes sense. I don't think I'm really getting myself across clearly, but I feel like if maybe you thought that the Thursday Murder Club was a little bit too like cozy cute, this would potentially be a good one for you. It's not like a dark gritty story or anything like that, but it's just slightly less, and I think it potentially could have more mass appeal. Also, this is the first in a series, so you don't have a ton to catch up on. So yes, that is my entire list of 10, only 10, top 10 in order as well. Wow, crazy. My very long list of mystery thriller recommendations. These are my favourites that I have ever read, and I really, really would highly recommend all of them. I would love to hear recommendations from you guys as well. Obviously, you can see what type of stuff I'd like, so if you leave any recommendations in the comments, I would absolutely love that. If you made it this far, leave a little blood drop emoji down below, and thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to give it a like down below, hit subscribe and turn on the bell to join a little club, and turn on all notifications, then you'll be notified every single time I post a new video. If you want to watch one of my other videos, there'll be 2 on the screen now to pick from, as well as the linked up in the cards from earlier. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!